So, hello everyone and welcome to another DCP webinar. We're excited to have you. Today we are going to be talking about crater feeding and bottlenose dolphins. So what exactly are the bottlenose dolphins doing? And when they do it, why are they turning to the left? I'm Kel. Some of you already know me. I see some returning people today as well as some new folks. I have been studying dolphins with the Dolphin Communication Project since 2003, and I'm happy to say today we're being joined by Dr. Daisy Kaplan, who's been a colleague of ours for quite a while as well. Today's webinar will focus, as I said, on this cool feeding behavior among the bottlenose dolphins in the Bahamas that we call crater feeding. And you can look at that picture there and see why we call it that. The sandy sea floor takes on a look like the surface of the moon. So we'll discuss this cool behavior today. Kathleen, our director, is monitoring the chat, so go ahead and type your questions to her, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. I think the PowerPoint part of today is probably going to be 20-25 minutes, so we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. And just a reminder, we're recording this. We're happy to archive all of our webinars on the DCP website and on our YouTube channel. So keep those cameras and microphones off. This is just a little reminder of where you can learn more about this topic. So that's, of course, 2 screenshots of the DCP website. And our podcast, The Dolphin Pod, is found under the latest Buzz tab. Episode 20 is the episode that covers this lateralized behavior that we're going to discuss today. And if you want even more, you can find our publications section under the research tab, and you can download the PDF of this scientific article. Daisy, who's with us today, is the lead author on that project. And you'll see when you go to that publications page that some of them are PDF that you can download then and there. Other times it just says contact us, and that just means that the journal wouldn't allow us to post it kind of publicly and free like that, but you can always email us and we can send you a copy. So first off, where did we study these dolphins that we're going to talk about today? DCP has been studying the wild dolphins off Bimini, which is in the country of the Bahamas, since 2001. Kathleen actually first went to Bimini in 1997 as part of the filming for a large format film, or an IMAX film that was cleverly titled Dolphins. This was when she, and therefore DCP, first met the dolphins off Bimini. Here in this map, you can see the southern tip of Florida. So here's Miami down in the south, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. This purplish water is the deep northerly flowing Gulf Stream. And to the east of the Gulf Stream, all these little islands, and it even extends further than this map shows, make up the country of the Bahamas. Bimini is here, circled in orange, and it's on a very shallow bank of water, but it's very close to the deep water. And that's actually where I'm calling you from today. So hopefully our internet will cooperate through the whole talk. We study 2 species of dolphins here in Bimini, the Atlantic spotted dolphins, pictured here, and the bottlenose dolphins, or the common bottlenose dolphins, to be more specific. In most parts of the world, if you have bottlenose dolphins and another species of dolphins in the same area, you know the most about the bottlenose and less about the others. But Bimini likes to be different, so we actually know more about the spotteds here and less about the bottlenose. Our research, way back when, began with a focus on the spotted dolphins, and they were also the focus of the local ecotourism industry. They seemed to be the species that sought out the boat. You still had to look for them. You still never knew where you were going to find them or what they were going to be doing, but they seemed more likely to come toward the boat to check out the people. But over time, we and the local boat captains, we sort of learned that there were in fact ways to observe and learn about the bottlenose in the area too. So those of you who joined our webinar earlier this week on Tuesday, which of course is already up online if you missed it, you already know about recognizing individual spotted dolphins. We talked about how no two spotted dolphins have the same spot pattern, and we can use those markings to recognize individuals over time. Bottlenose dolphins don't have the handy, unique spot patterns, but they do have distinct dorsal fins. So no two bottlenose dolphins look alike either. And we can use photographs to recognize individuals. So we don't have to tag them, we don't have to mark them, and we can still recognize them over time. So once we get good images, if we can't find a match to photographs that we already have, then the dolphin gets its own number. So here you see two dolphins from our catalog, dolphin 26 and dolphin 28. And I chose these because they clearly look different. This one is missing a big chunk of its dorsal fin. It has a fresh injury here on its peduncle, but that's going to heal up nicely. And this dolphin, even though much more of its dorsal fin, that's the fin on the back of their body, even though much more of it is intact, it still has these notches. And those notches, they might heal a little bit at the beginning, but they're not going to regenerate. It's not going to fill in that whole notch. Right now, we have over 130 individual bottlenose dolphins that we've documented in the area. And we're currently working with another colleague to better understand how the bottlenose dolphins use the area around Bimini. So asking questions like, do the same dolphins come back year after year? So now this is really sort of pushing my technological abilities and Bimini's internet, but I'm hoping to show you a video of the crater feeding. So just in case it helps, if I can get this to cooperate, maybe not. I'm gonna pause my own video so you won't see me anymore. This is some video of the crater feeding that we're talking about. So hopefully that's playing for all of you. I apologize if it's a little bit skippy. But this is a clip from 2019, and you're gonna see a lot of those craters. So first you're gonna see the dolphins take a breath. They're mammals, they're not fish, so they don't have gills. So they have to come to the surface to breathe, and then they head down to the seafloor. There you can see those craters where they've been sitting for quite some time before this observation began. The dolphins swim along the seafloor, just above it. And they're searching for small plants that might be garden tools or abrasive things that are buried just below the sand. We don't actually know how they're doing. For example, are they actually detecting the fish itself, or are they detecting small scratches on the sand and then choosing that spot to dig? But we do know that when bottlenose are actively crater feeding, so you see in this video, there's a turn, digging, the snack actually got away, chasing it, a little extra dig. When they're doing this, it's a group activity, so they're not cooperating necessarily, but every dolphin in the group is doing it. So while they're feeding and they're breathing, it's perfectly synchronized.
Hey, Kel?
Yeah?
It's hard to hear your voice because the video is quite loud.
Oh, okay. Let me turn that down for you. Probably heard lots of the boat in the background.
Yep.
I wanted you to hear some of the sounds that they're making. They're buzzing. So hopefully that turned it down a bit. Can you hear me now? Over the video, or should I mute it entirely?
Nope, that's much better, thanks.
Okay. So some of the things I was just letting you know is the whole group tends to be crater feeding at the same time. And so that doesn't mean that they're perfectly synchronous in their behavior, taking breaths at the exact same moment. As you can see, they're not all digging at the same moment. But generally speaking, the whole group is at the sea floor at the same time, and then the whole group is at the surface breathing at the same time. Some of the other things I was mentioning are just that we don't know exactly how they're doing what they're doing, in the sense that we don't know if they're actually detecting the prey item itself, the fish itself, or if they're detecting small disruptions in the sand from where that fish was buried, and then they're choosing that spot to dig. So there's still lots to learn about this behavior. So these are just some screenshots of a sequence of one individual dolphin as it was making these rotations. Daisy and I, we would be in the water observing this crater feeding behavior, and then we'd get back on the boat and we'd be having these conversations between ourselves, guests on the boat captains, and things like, I swear I've never seen a dolphin turn right. Is that possible? They always seem to just turn a bit toward their left right before they're about to dig. Our mind's playing tricks on us. Well, the handy thing is that we don't have to just rely on our memories. We collect data systematically, so it's very convenient. We can go back to our video, we can go back to our notes, and we can actually look at the data and not just our memories. So for this study, we went through video from 2012 to 2018, which amounted to 337 boat trips. And we reviewed all of our recordings of bottlenose dolphins crater feeding. So now, that doesn't mean that we saw it 337 times, because they're not crater feeding all the time, and we don't see bottlenose on every boat trip, as science is simply not that easy, especially when you're dealing with wild animals. But in those 7 years, we went on 337 boat trips, and in that time, 337 tries to see this behavior, we were able to record video 26 times. So the return on effort is really challenging with these kinds of studies. But in those 26 video observations, we were able to record 709 turns. So every one of those turns counts as one. We had 709 of them, and the suspense, is it killing you? Are you ready for it? 705 of the turns were to the left. So that's 99.4% of all the turns we were able to document were to the left. And those 4 right turns were all the same dolphin. So this is that right turning dolphin. ID number 134. You can see bottlenose, the TT in that ID code is for Tursiops truncatus. That's their Latin or their scientific name, and that's to distinguish our catalogs. We have a photo ID catalog for the spotted dolphins and a photo ID catalog for the bottlenose dolphins. So this is TT134, the one who was never seen turning to the left, and you can see it has a damaged right pectoral fin. Pectoral fins are the fins on the side of the body, and its right fin is damaged. We don't know how it happened, but could this malformed fin be the reason this dolphin turns to its right? Well, we wondered about it, but the hypothesis didn't really hold up, because there are at least 2 other dolphins with damaged right pectoral fins, and they don't turn right. They still turn to the left. So we had to keep simmering on why. Remember that original question? Oh, you know what? I got ahead of myself for a second. Apologies. I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the individual dolphins. So those 26 observations of video, we were able to recognize 27 different individual dolphins. So of those 27 bottlenose dolphins, number 134 was the only one who turned to the right, and all the other 26 turned to the left. So here are just 5 examples of some of the individuals who were the left turners. TT35, you can see that we saw in 4 of the years of the study. So we were really able to see consistency over time in individual preference to turn in this way. Some dolphins we only saw in 1 year, but there were quite a few that we saw multiple years to see that this is consistent over time. So now, remember that original question we were asking ourselves on the boat? Do the bottlenose always turn to the left? That's essentially asking if there is laterality in their behavior. And the answer was yes. There is behavioral laterality in these feeding dolphins. And laterality is when an individual shows repeated bias in the direction of movement, limb preference, or side orientation. This study that we completed was not the first time lateralization has been shown in individuals or even at the population level. As many of you probably know, about 90% of humans are right-handed, and that even actually starts in the womb. But it's not just humans and dolphins either. Chimpanzees and gorillas show right-handed bias, but orangutans show a left-handed bias. Reindeer herds circle counterclockwise. Giraffes, I see a nice little giraffe picture there my husband took. Giraffes move their left leg first in their splay stance. That's how they spread their legs apart so their head can reach the ground. Even honeybees prefer their right antenna in their social interactions. So why? This lateralization exists, but why? In many of the examples I just gave, the humans, gorillas, giraffes, honeybees, the lateralized behavior is at the population level. So meaning that it's not just each individual will have a preference and that preference will exist over time, but that most individuals in the whole population will have the same preference. For humans, each hemisphere of our brain is specialized to do certain processes. So when the bottlenose dolphins off Bimini turn to the left, it puts their right eye closer to the sea floor and their prey. So perhaps the why they turn answer lies in how the dolphin brain processes information. First, some other examples, right? Because we were only studying one group of bottlenose dolphins doing one particular behavior in one part of the world. Well, we can find other examples of this right side bias in other cetacean or whale and dolphin species. Dusky dolphins, for example, they keep their right eyes and their right side to the prey when they're circling fish. Bottlenose dolphins, some of you may have heard of a feeding technique called strand feeding. Well, when bottlenose dolphins who strand feed, when they do that, they do so with their right side down. Gray whales and humpback whales, they've shown a right side bias when they're doing something called bottom rolling. So you can see it's not sort of special. It's not unique to this one group of bottlenose dolphins off Bimini. Maybe perhaps now you're getting a little sick of hearing my voice. So I'm going to bring Daisy in to go over some of the form and function explanations for this right side bias.
Hi all. So there are several different theories or possibilities for why these dolphins have this right side bias. So one of these theories came from people that were observing dolphin strand feeding. So you see these dolphins here strand feeding. And what they're doing is they're chasing fish onto a muddy bank, beaching themselves on their right side, grabbing that fish and then sliding back into the water. They always strand feed on the right side. So one researcher who is an anatomist thought about the structure of their esophagus, so where they swallow food, and their trachea or their windpipe. So their trachea is wrapped around their esophagus, not a very good design. But one side of their esophagus is larger, the right side. The idea is maybe these dolphins are beaching on the right side so that that large food item can go down on the right side and not get, and it helps them swallow their prey better so that that prey item doesn't get lodged and stuck in that intertwined flaring. So that's one theory, but there's other parts of their heads that are asymmetrical as well. And so if we look at the next picture, we'll see that Kel, if you can move to the next one. Oh, great, thanks. So this is a very fancy, formal, official picture here. But what you see is that you see this picture of a dolphin here, and they have two structures in their heads that make sound. They're called the monkey lips dorsal bursae. They have one structure on each side, and they use these structures to whistle and click. But it's found that in general, they click with the right and they whistle with the left. So perhaps they have this right side bias because they're using that right sound maker to click. And one of the strongest examples of having this bias and this right side bias when clicking is the blind river dolphin. So the blind river dolphin has very, very tiny eyes, really don't function, so it's essentially blind. And it's constantly echolocating or clicking to explore its environment. So when these dolphins are swimming through these muddy rivers, they're constantly clicking, constantly swimming, and they're constantly swimming one side down. And of all of these dolphins that were observed, almost all of them always swam right side down. Always swimming right side down and always clicking when they're swimming. The other few dolphins swam on the left side, but they always swam left side down. So they always swim with the same side down. But we could also think more on the cognitive level. So when a dolphin looks at something with its right eye or hears something with its right ear, that information is being processed by its left hemisphere. And if it's looking with its left eye or listening with its left ear, it's processing that information in its right hemisphere. And a lot of studies have shown that dolphins are specialized in what they process in each hemisphere. So they're better using their right eye or their left hemisphere in visuospatial tasks, so things like mapping, in number tasks, in discriminating patterns. And when they do these tasks, they do them better and learn faster if they use their right eye. Now, if they're looking at familiar or unfamiliar objects, there's a difference there as well. So dolphins will use their right eye to look at unfamiliar objects and their left eye to look at familiar objects. And one of these familiar objects includes moms and acquaintances or friends. So if they're looking at a familiar dolphin or approaching a conspecific and maybe rubbing pec fins to say hi, they'll approach using their left eye and keeping that animal in their left eye view. So processing that information with their right hemisphere. So why the right side? There's a few different reasons this could be. Notice that this fits with that right side feeding bias. So many other dolphins and whales also have that right side preference. And it may be that they're processing information related to foraging the left side of their brain. So they're taking that information from what they see with their right eye and what they hear, that when they listen to the echoes of those clicks that they send out with their right ear, they're processing that information in the left side of their brain. It could also be that they have an echolocation bias. Maybe it's the structure in their right side that they use for echolocating. So they put that side of their head down because that's where the echolocation comes from. We don't know the answer, but we do have theories.
Thank you. Cool behavior.
Kel, you gotta drop the volume again.
I just dropped the volume. Is it better now? Or is it still loud?
Better, but still a little loud.
Well, I didn't have much else to say. Just wanted everyone to have a chance to see it again. What this cool behavior that we get to see is, and here's one, really digging in, pumping that tail, pumping that flute, in order to get its tasty snack. So sometimes when the dolphins are crater feeding off Bimini, they can do it for the bulk of the day almost. We've had days where I've seen them from shore, and then a couple of hours later we go out in the boat and they're still crater feeding in the same area, and we go and search for different dolphins, and on the way back, we still see them crater feeding. So if they've really come into a good spot, a good hunting ground, they can do it for hours at a time. Suspect that other times, if it's not as plentiful, it's not as rich of an area, they'll move on more quickly. What we don't know is how much of their diet this foraging technique gives them. I suspect because of the amount of time we go between not seeing it, even though they could be doing it in another area, I suspect this is more of a snack for them versus the bulk of their diet. So as we wrap up here, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that all of our webinars are archived on our website and our YouTube channel. We have a new YouTube channel since we started this series. But on our website, you want to look under the Education tab, and you'll find something for webinars, and that's where you'll see the ones that you can play straight there if you don't want to go to YouTube. Oops, went too fast there. Also on our website is our podcast, The Dolphin Pod, and our very funny, much funnier than me hosts go through a variety of topics, and we have a podcast episode on this topic, on this laterality and crater feeding. So that's episode 20 if you want to go listen to it or listen to some of our other ones. And then we have DCP Dives Deep webinars, which is what this was, and DCP Dolphin Lessons. Our dolphin lessons are geared towards ages 6 to 13. Our next one is next Tuesday, and it will actually build on last Tuesday's topic of photo ID. It's going to feature the bottlenose dolphins that we study at Blue Lagoon Island, home of dolphin encounters, which is also in the Bahamas. And then we have our next deep dive will be next Thursday, so a week from today, and our former intern, now PhD, Dr. Alexis Levengood, is going to share her research with us. That one is going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern because she'll be joining us from Australia. And then one last thing before we get to our questions is, of course, a thank you to you for joining us today. Please stay in touch. If you have questions about what we do, reach out to us, social media, email. And then if you just need more info, head to our website. We try and have new stuff regularly and keep it updated. And then, of course, there are ways to support us so that we can keep doing fun things like these webinars. One of the special things that we're doing right now is anyone who makes a $15 or more purchase directly from our website. So that could be adopting a dolphin, buying a t-shirt. We have cool cloth hoo rags, they're called, like kind of bandanas for your face. A donation, a membership, anything that's at least $15, and you can select someone in your own life. That might be an essential worker, a nurse, a grocery store worker, a bus driver who you want to celebrate and thank, and we will send them a free electronic adoption kit. So certainly stay in touch. For now, Kathleen, did people submit questions? Daisy and I and Kathleen can answer some of your questions. I'm going to try and get my video to come back on, but it's not wanting to right at this moment, so.
Okay. Well, I do have one question, well, a couple questions for you. The first is how, I think you referred to the sounds that the dolphins were making when they were crater feeding as a razor buzz. And how is the razor buzz different to regular echolocation?
Do you want to grab this one, Daisy?
That's a great question. So it's when we're in the water, we can hear them echolocating. And this sound, so this is based on what we're hearing. That's why we're describing it as a razor buzz. It sounds like an electric razor. So when we're in the water and they're crater feeding, you can hear this specific type of echolocation and this specific sound, and that alerts us to their behavior. If we hear that sound, we expect that we would see them crater feeding. Other echolocation clicks can be louder, they can be faster, they can be slower, but this one has a very distinct found like an electric razor.
Cool. The next I had was, do you see any other behavior in either the bottlenose or spotted dolphins that might also be lateralized?
We haven't, not that I can think of that we've seen any behavior here in particular that's been lateralized. One of the studies that other people have looked at in wild dolphins is that when they see objects that are novel in the water, they would approach it with, the eye that looks at novel objects. They'd approach it with their right eye to look at something new and novel, or their left eye if it was familiar. Kel, have you noticed anything else lateralized?
One of the things that's always kind of in the back of our mind, folks who are more familiar with DCP's work will know that we ask a lot about how they use their pectoral fins to communicate with each other or maintain contact with each other, make contact with each other. So whether or not individual dolphins will have a preferred pectoral fin to approach another dolphin and give a rub, give a scratch to, we haven't looked at that at the lateralized or the potential for lateralization in pectoral fin contact here in Bimini. Kathleen, if I can put you on the spot, have you looked at that in any of the bottlenose populations you look at?
I have not. I have documented which pectoral fin dolphins use to initiate contact between or with another dolphin. I haven't actually looked at that systematically because it seems like there might be individual preferences with the dolphins, but I haven't actually looked at that. Although colleagues of ours in Japan, Mai Sakai and her colleagues, have looked at the lateralization of pec fin contact in the dolphins at Mikura Island, and that's one of the populations that we've studied as well. And I haven't pulled that paper up recently, but I believe they did notice a lateralization with most of the dolphins using their right pec fin. But I'd have to double check that in the paper, but I'm pretty sure that's what they found as well.
Thank you for the question.
Cool. Yes, thank you. So I had a question on based on a comment that you made near the end, Kel, is looking at how often or by season when you might see bottlenose dolphins doing this behavior. Do you think, and this I'm sorry if I put you on the spot, do you think that this might be related to any patterns in availability of the fish that they're going after?
Yeah, and one of the things we sort of just glanced at in our data are if it's in any way tied to the lunar cycle, since that would be something that's kind of easy to correlate. And we didn't find any pattern at first glance there. We looked, although it would just be at a daily pattern, if there was anything tidal, and there didn't seem to be there either. Our data here in Bimini is so skewed toward the summer. That's when the seas are calmer. That's when the eco-tour boats that we collaborate with go out. So we can kind of look at changes throughout the summer, but we can't really look at full seasonal differences.
Cool. Interesting. I don't have any other questions right now. Is there anything that either you or Daisy would like to add?
Well, the one thing that I was still wondering about with the one dolphin that was an anomaly. So if you look at his pec fin, it has an abnormal shape. And I was wondering if maybe it had something to do with his development. Maybe he developed differently, and so his brain was developed a little bit differently, reversed brain or something like that. Because the other dolphins that had that misformed pec fin, for them, it looked to me a little bit more like it could have come from some circumstance like a shark bite or a boat or a fishing line. Whereas this looked a little bit more like it could have been born with that mutation.
Interesting.
And one of the
I do just
go ahead, Kathleen. Sorry.
Go. That's okay. Sorry, I was going to say there at in our study group in Roatan, there is one of the dolphins that has been working on a behavior to uncover a PVC square that's been buried. And after looking at this paper, I had to go and look at that video because we only just got the video in January with this new behavior that this young female is learning. And she actually circles or puts her left eye down. So she circles to the right in the 4 clips that I have of looking at her. So I don't know if that's a consistent pattern or not. I'll have to ask if I can look at that more when she does that to see if that's something that she does consistently, if she has a left eye bias. I'm not sure, but it was an interesting observation.
Yes. And I find it, I was just thinking back to our lesson on communication last week, and someone asked about if dolphins could kind of eavesdrop on another dolphin's echo. So dolphin A sends out the sound, but could dolphin A and dolphin B sneak in and receive the same echo? And one thing I've noticed in this crater feeding behavior is that they don't crowd each other. They'll sometimes be, you know, fairly close to each other, but they're never pushing each other. They're not making physical contact with each other while they're searching. So it doesn't seem like one dolphin tries to swoop in and reap the rewards of another dolphin's hard work.
So
The
you could
nurse
say
sharks,
crater,
however, do. Nurse sharks seem to like to come by. The dolphins have disrupted the sand, disrupted lots of things, and the nurse sharks seem just kind of opportunistic and lazy and sneak in and get the scraps that the dolphins don't get for themselves.
Well, you could also say that crater feeding is a natural social distancing behavior between dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dolphins, they're always ahead of us.
Yes. Very cool. Well, that's all I have for questions right now. But thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll come back for another one another time. Thanks so much.